This is an overview of how to use the evaluation tools in the Service Information System, and I'm Gillian Kerr. As you've seen in previous videos, this is the homepage of the Service Information System. In this video, we're going to be focusing on evaluation tools. The evaluation tools section has a number of different tools, and you'll be using all of them as you define the outcomes that you're working with, as you select your indicators, as you design your evaluation plan, as you write up your data management plan, and so on. I'll go through each of these in turn. Most of these are under construction, so I'll be showing you a combination of what's already on the site and what we're developing, and we'll be updating this video tutorial over the next few weeks. In this first section, you'll be able to create a logic model or a theory of change for your program. You'll be able to go into any of these sections, the links that you can see in the table at the bottom of the page, and select the indicators that are relevant to you that you want to measure in the first stage of evaluation. Evaluating all of your services is not going to happen over 1 year. It's a very long process. So you'll be walked through a process of articulating your theory of change for your agency, selecting indicators that are relevant, and then deciding which indicators you really want to collect right away. And you can see we have a generic logic model here. The generic logic model essentially fits for all of OCASI member agencies in relation to their settlement programs. All of you serve immigrants and or refugees. All of you have desired outcomes that are in the area of income and or employment and or health and well-being, housing, education and training, social inclusion and access to services. Now, each particular program may emphasize one or more of those outcomes, but generically, those are the kinds of outcomes that you and your clients are reaching for. And generically, all of you have to deal with selecting a program design that makes sense for your community, or a program that is mandated by your funder, but that you can, you may have more or less ability to tailor it based on evidence and based on feedback. All of you will have to deal with building organizational capacity to be able to deliver the program correctly. All of you will probably want to report on the number and type of program activities compared to your targets. So if you've told your funder that you're going to deliver 12 workshops over 6 months, those are the kinds of things you probably want to report on. And you may want to report on the quality of your programs. For reach and experience, you're going to want to report on the number and type of participants that you reached compared to your targets. So if you were going to reach 100 women, then you want to report on that. If you're planning to reach youth and so on, you would report on that. And participant experience. Participant experience speaks to client satisfaction, how your partners feel about you, how engaged they are. There's a number of different indicators there. And then, of course, the outcomes. In this second section, design and evaluation plan, we are going to be developing a wizard that walks you through the process of thinking through what you want to measure. In the previous section, you've come up with your logic model. In other words, you are focusing on perhaps employment and housing. But in this section, you'll be thinking about what you actually want to evaluate this year. So what is the very minimum that you need to evaluate to best serve your community? And it might be the best way to serve your community in the coming year is to describe what you're doing more effectively to your funders so that you can maintain or increase funding. It might be to find out how you can improve your programs right away, or it might be some other area. So in designing your evaluation plan, we're going to lead you through a set of questions to find out what is your priority. The first question, are you offering a program model that's effective? And so what the indicator that we're suggesting is a strategy checklist that will enable you to self-assess the level of evidence, the community need and priorities, the cultural appropriateness of the program you're delivering. And it might be that the report that you derive out of this indicator won't be for your own agency. It may be to your funders to communicate to them as a sector that we need to have a better level of evidence, or we find that the program meets community needs, but it's not culturally appropriate. So different indicators will have different audiences. The second question, do you have the financial and human capacity to deliver the program? The kinds of indicators that we're offering in this first phase are how effective are your managers? How effective are your teams? And are you delivering services in a way that meet equity goals? We're also asking, do you have basic processes in place in your agency? Do you capture critical incidents? Do you report them? How do you resolve them? Do you collect complaints and do you track them? What kinds of feedback mechanisms do you have from staff partners and clients? Third question, are you implementing the program correctly? And for that, we'd like to develop quality checklists related to program fidelity for those of you who know that kind of evaluation vocabulary, possibly offering a critical incident summary and maybe a risk management framework, which is already being asked by Grants Ontario and some of your other funders. Fourth question, are we delivering our targeted activities on time and within budget? That's pretty common. Most of your funders are going to want to know that. And for that, you'd have to break down your activities by how the funders define them, iCare, MCI, other funder activities. Number five, are you reaching your targeted participants? And for that, you would want to know who you're serving broken down by the demographic targets, whether they're youth, women, age group, ethnicity, culture, and so on. Number six, are you treating your clients with respect and meeting their needs? One of the indicators that we're recommending is drawn from the health sector, and it just asks, how often did staff treat you with courtesy and respect? And what you're looking for is most people are going to hopefully rate you as mostly or always treating them with courtesy and respect. We're going to offer an open-ended qualitative question if you only had one suggestion or suggestions. And we also like the Arizona Self-Sufficiency Scale, which is recommended by Trillium Foundation, where clients can select the outcomes that they want to work on and negotiate that with the counselor or agency. Number seven, question seven, are your clients actually meeting their goals? And for that, we want to offer indicators around knowledge, behavior, and status for each outcome area. So if it's employment, do they have the knowledge to write a resume or to carry out an interview? Do they have the knowledge around the local labor market and so on? Behavior, how are they sending out applications? And status, are they actually employed? And we're developing a number of questions for each outcome area in those levels of knowledge, behavior, and status. Eighth question, are other organizations or institutions changing their behaviors to better serve our clients? And we might have some indicators around the policies and practices of other institutions in your area or possibly government funders, as well as possibly media coverage. And the final question, are our clients and communities achieving the impacts that they wanted? And for that, you've got different data sources that are going to be part of SIS. One is Community Data Portal reports from Statistics Canada. So in your community, what is the employment status? Is that appropriate? Is this something that shows a real community need for additional investment? You might also be able to generate agency level reports from SIS, so your own data, comparing your results to client baselines and also community level baselines. And you may be able to aggregate reports from the SIS database across agencies, programs, and regions, depending on permissions and depending on what you're interested in. So some of these, in question 9, that is the most challenging, and that's what we should be working towards as a sector. In this section, developing a data management plan, we're going to be offering some tools to define how you're collecting the data, how you're going to protect it, who has access to it, how long it's going to be stored, and so on. And this data management plans, or DMPs, are more and more required in research funding, and they're also required by most research ethics boards when they are assessing whether or not a research design is ethical. And we're probably going to be suggesting that any evaluation plan that includes sensitive data like involvement with the criminal justice system, perhaps HIV status, the kinds of things that would be very harmful to clients if it came out, should go through an arm's length research ethics process, and that's what we're going to be designing as part of SIS in consultation with agency members. But a data management plan asks questions like, who will be responsible for managing this project's data during and after the project? as well as the major data management tasks for which they will be responsible. So with the SIS, logical outcomes is going to be managing the data to some extent, but also agencies are going to be responsible for managing some of the data. What happens after 3 years or after 5 years? Does it get deleted? Who's responsible for that, and so on. This section on reviewing your data collection tools is under heavy construction. We hope to have the surveys up in a couple of weeks during September. But in summary, this is where you can see all the surveys that are available to you, and you will be able to um, customize these surveys to some extent, reword some of the questions as long as the meaning is the same, and so on. We've split them up for demonstration purposes into 6 different surveys. 3 of them relate to the programs and organizations, and 3 of them relate to your clients and participants. So in the first 3, the first one is surveys about your management and your teams that could be filled out by individual staff. So if you have 20 staff members, each of those staff members could fill out a questionnaire about how the teams are working from their perspectives. And then your agency could see, we've got some problems here, we need to provide coaching, or we're doing really well in terms of team cohesion. The second level of survey would be program level self-assessment tools, and that would be filled out by program managers. So a manager might say, yeah, our program is heavily supported by evidence. Our communities have said that they really need it. They've said that it's appropriate. So each program manager would fill it out possibly every time you update the program. So it might be during a strategic planning process or when you're in the process of designing a program. The third level is organizational level tools, and that would be filled out by senior managers of your organization. So if there are questions about what is your organizational capacity in terms of financial management, that would be done by a senior manager. Could be done once a year, could be done as part of a strategic planning process. But you'll notice that none of these surveys are given out to clients. And so there are things that you can use right away without imposing more data collection burden on your clients and participants. Now, the second group of 3 surveys, they're around your clients. The first one is client demographics. So how many, what are the age of your clients? What is their ethnicity? Where did they come from? What are their genders? Breakdowns. Now, that might be asking the clients directly, or it might be asking staff people, or it might be taking it out of your administrative data. And so in this set of questions, we're just trying to make sure that we are asking demographic questions that you care about. There's a lot of different ways of asking about region of origin or immigrant status. We want to ask them in a way that makes sense to you. The second set of surveys are surveys or interview questions to be answered by clients or participants. They can be done by paper surveys or online surveys or by telephone interviews or face-to-face interviews. They're just a list of questions. And all of these are validated by research to one extent or another, and they're all based on input from OCASI agencies around the kinds of things that you want to measure. And we want to keep adding questions that relate to your needs. And finally, observations and progress notes to be filled out by staff. This might be things like critical incident reports or observations about the clients that you might put in to your progress notes. And if you're using something like OCMS, you might eventually want to export some of those observations into SIS, depending on confidentiality issues and the kinds of things that you want to analyze in the future. The final section is create reports and go to your dashboards. And I'm going to show you 2 slides here. When you go into this, you'll see that it's a completely different sign-in screen. This is our data warehouse, DHIS2. It's a health management information system. We will need different usernames and permissions to get into this for security reasons. So it's a little bit of a hassle to sign in, and it's not the most beautiful screen in the world, but for now, use these demo sign-in credentials. The username is demo, the password is password1, and then you'll be able to see the following page. This is an example of a dashboard that you can see in DHIS2. So once you have collected the data, you'll be able to go into DHIS2 and define reports and dashboards that meet your needs. Right here you see these are sort of generic data taken from Statistics Canada, and we can actually build them to meet your needs. But you'll see that there's a dashboard called employment, and there's another dashboard called income. Many people create dashboards for different user groups as well as for different subject areas. So you might have a dashboard for your board, a dashboard for your senior management. These dashboards comprise reports. You can choose any number of reports per dashboard. You can create and you can refine dashboards. You can come up with different visualizations. There's a lot of power here. So anybody that has permissions in your agency could come in, manipulate the dashboards based on aggregate data that have been collected for your agency. You would not have access to information from other agencies. And that's it. For more information, go to the website, ocasi.sysngo. For questions and suggestions, we welcome both. Contact sis@logicaloutcomes.net, and I hope you enjoyed this tour.